Hi, and welcome to another episode of Decent Exposure. I should say decent exposure. It's like stereo, 3D. And that's what we're going to talk about on today's show is stereo photography. And we've got a whole plethora of stereo cameras and gadgets and images that we're going to talk about today and tell you about, and maybe get you interested in a little bit of stereo photography or 3D photography as it's known. And we're going to show you how to do it. Unfortunately, we can't really show you what it looks like on television because we're not 3D, and we can't quite do what happened at the Super Bowl, but we're going to come as close as we can. So stay tuned, come back, and we're going to talk about 3D photography. Hi, and welcome back. And like I said at the top, we're going to talk about 3D photography. And before I forget, at the end of the show, we're going to give you some information about 3D photography. Two things in particular. One is an exhibit that's going to be going around Chicagoland coming up that we really want you to see. And secondly, if you get interested in 3D photography, how you can become more involved in it. And with us today, our first two guests are from the Chicago Stereo Camera Club, Norm Henkels and Walter Hyderhoff. Hyderhoff, I'm sorry. And we're going to talk about some of your wonderful cameras here and images. And I guess we should start off with what I think a lot of people think 3D is, which is, this is called...
It's a vintage stereoscope.
Okay.
The parlor stereoscope from about the turn of the century.
So these were made right around the turn of the century, and it's a little viewer for holding these stereo cards.
That's right.
It's a Holmes stereoscope, actually. I think Mr. Holmes, I don't know if he's the Chief Justice or not, but he's a writer. He invented the idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
He invented the way of doing it, or the camera?
The stereoscope.
The stereoscope.
Okay. So you've got, here, let me hold this up, and Sandy can maybe get a tight shot of what the card looks like. It looks like two identical pictures just mounted side by side.
And it's not, because they're taken from two different viewpoints there if you have different angles.
Okay. And
the principle of stereoscopy was invented way back late 1800s.
Okay.
Was it Wheatstone that did that, Norm?
Right.
Somebody like that.
Actually, before photography.
And drawings. They did drawings first.
Right.
Yeah, you were mentioning that before we started, that they were actually stereo drawings.
Yeah,
That's right.
And the photography came along. And then you just slip this card into here.
And the angle lenses, you see, they're wedged lenses.
They're almost like a prism.
They are like a flat prism almost, yes.
And then you just move
For focus.
the card back and forth to focus.
According to your own eyes and so
hold
forth.
it up to your eyes and actually see a 3D image.
Yeah, so each eye sees a separate image and fuses them together.
And it's remarkable 3D. Have I got two black eyes now?
No,
Okay.
you never get a black eye doing that. You might get bug-eyed, but...
And I've seen these cards at different camera shows, even antique shops. You
they're
sometimes
big
find
deals.
them in a shoebox that you can
Oh, yeah. The
buy old
prices
images.
have gone up fantastic, I understand. I don't get into that end of it at all.
Really?
But people do nothing but collect these things. They want somebody by so-and-so and somebody by so-and-so and views of the Wild West and view of Adirondacks or what have
And
you.
they become collector's items.
They are collector's items, yes.
Well, the viewer here, the stereoscope, has got to be fairly old.
It is old, and that is a collector's item. There are replicas being made now in Red Wing, Minnesota that duplicate that type of thing. And this one came from Chicago. This was adapted, the other viewer was
Yeah, we're
adapted
going
for
to get
something
into
else.
that one. Just a minute. How much would something like this be worth?
I think those stereoscopes are bringing in the neighborhood of anywhere from $40 to $70, depending on their condition.
Okay, because the one we've got here is in pretty nice shape.
How
Yes.
bad somebody wants it.
Okay, so
Right.
there's an old stereoscope and some of the old images. But now we get into more contemporary photographs.
This is present-day stereo photography done with conventional stereo camera and regular color print film. The prints are taken and mounted in this mount, and then viewed in a very similar stereoscope, but made of present-day materials and technology.
Plastics.
Right.
The future's in plastics.
Right.
I like the old wood ones, to tell you the truth, but
They're beautiful.
these, there's plastic, and it's got the glasses, and use it the same way.
Same way. If I remember rightly,
You can
this thing was
focus.
built for training of eyes, people that have eye trouble, and then they've adapted.
Okay.
It's the same deal, but when they have the prints made, instead of having 3R, where you normally do, you have 3S.
Square
and
prints.
square, so they can come out that way. And then you have to trim them, and you mount them with a certain separation
Okay.
of the fire images and so forth.
I want to show another one of these contemporary prints, and this is just balloons, hot air balloons. So you know it's not antique.
Right.
This was taken not terribly long ago. And to take pictures like this, they're done with a stereo camera.
Yes.
And let's take a look at a stereo camera or two. We got a bunch of them here. And the first one I grab is called a Kodak stereo camera.
Right.
This is made by Kodak.
Right. These cameras were made anywhere from 35 to 40 years ago, and everybody got on the bandwagon, including Kodak here.
Okay, now here we've got two lenses as opposed to one. Now what happens when you take a picture with this camera as opposed to what we're used to, a single lens camera where it puts, an image on a negative and moves on to the next one? What happens with these two lenses?
It's not really any different. The only thing going on here is that you're taking two pictures from two perspectives, just about the same as the spacing of your eyes. And
At the same time?
Right,
Okay.
simultaneously. And from that, by viewing those two respective perspective points, you see them individually with the respective eyes, and the synapse in the brain fuses it to give you full relief, full stereo.
Gotcha. So you just take a picture like any other camera,
That's right.
and you end up with two separate images that you can then mount.
On slides.
Either way.
Normally slides.
Okay.
Or you'd have to have prints made, of course, if you
All
want
right.
the negative film.
But most of it is done on slides.
Well, not necessarily, yes, mostly, unless you
Or a
want to go
lot-
that
Let's say
way.
a lot of it is done on slides.
Yeah, it's depending what you're interested in.
Here's a couple of mounted
Transparencies.
stereo slides or transparencies. And again, it's just the two images mounted into one holder. Then these would go into a special slide projector or viewer.
Or viewers, same thing.
Okay, here's one of the viewers.
If the juice is cooked up, you can see it.
Now this just drops
Face the
in.
label to you. Yeah,
Okay,
just drop it the other
it
way.
just drops into the viewer. Well, I'm gonna show it to the camera here.
You can put the
Okay.
light on,
The switch is on the bottom.
right here.
Okay, are we plugged in?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can hold it up to your eye and you can see it, see?
It's
The
like a
camera
pair of
can't do that.
binoculars, except it's a viewer, and
Push the button, you can see it.
a great 3D image.
Button's underneath.
Buttons on, there we go.
Yeah.
Look at that. Stereo slides. And again, I wish you people at home could get the impact of what these look like, because they are really, almost, they want to jump out and grab you.
You are there.
You are there.
You can walk through it.
Yeah, it's a lot different than what you saw on TV in the Super Bowl, although
Oh, yeah.
that was good. But this is just so much more grabbing. And we've got other
Viewers,
viewers. Here's the
realist.
same principle, but a realist viewer,
That was the original one.
and this is
more or less.
battery operated.
The battery operated, right.
Okay.
And they also made electrically operated ones,
And here's one that's
battery operated.
battery
That
operated.
is still in production, incidentally.
Oh, you can still buy these new?
Still buy those, yeah.
Because that's something we really need to talk about,
Yeah.
is if any of this
Yeah.
equipment can still be had for somebody who wants to start with stereo photography.
Around $37, $38, somewhere in that
For
area.
the viewer.
Right.
For the viewer, yeah.
And
Okay.
these cameras are generally available for $100 and up, in good condition.
Okay, now, but the cameras you can only find
Used.
Right.
There's
That
no
is
mo-
a stereo camera as such.
Okay, there's nobody making
no.
stereo cameras anymore, and that's a
No.
shame. But here we've got a Kodak, here's a,
Revere.
this is a Revere, and
That's a realist.
a Realist.
Yeah.
Now, the Realist was the same as the TDC, as I recall?
They
or-
were the original ones. He came out with this. The man that designed it, Seton Rochewhite, was playing around with stereo smaller cameras in the 30s.
Mhm.
And then Kodachrome came up and he started playing with that. And then he designed the stereo realist as that and talked David White Company in Milwaukee, which is an instrument maker, precision instrument maker, into manufacturing. And they made several things. And then the
Voila,
big boom was
stereo
on
camera.
in 50s and 60s. And my own opinion is that what caused it to bust is that the mounting system that they came up with was for the birds.
Really?
Oh yeah, and then it's so tricky, and they were aiming at a point-and-shoot market, and stereo is not for the point-and-shoot market. You got to think a little bit.
It's much more precise than that.
You have to be precise,
Both in
yes.
taking the picture and
And
then mounting it.
well, not so
showing
much
it.
taking it for normal hand use. With Eastman used to mount these things in cardboard viewers, and they quit
Right.
because there wasn't enough volume. When they did that, there were a lot of people taking just ordinary snapshots, which is just as easy with a realist as with a point-and-shoot camera, except, of course, today you don't have autofocus and all
Right.
of this. You still have to think.
Right.
And it went over pretty big, but when it came to projection, everybody wanted to project, and projection is another story. It has to be far more precise to eliminate eye troubles and so forth, the eyes jumping around, trying to overlap.
Yeah, you're trying to bring two images.
In focus, this way, and up and down too. 3 different controls.
So it's got to be very precisely
Correct.
registered to get the 3D effect and not just look like something that's
Yeah,
out of focus.
that was missing. And when the original mounts came out, they were heat sealed. You slapped them in and put a heat seal on them. You had no way of moving them, adjusting them, and they were horrible.
Well, is that to say that a lot of people then will mount their own?
You
Right.
have to.
You have to mount your own just to be able to get as precise as it should be.
You need the precision in mounting for successful projection.
Okay. Let's go on with a couple more things that you brought. I mean, everybody knows stereo photography, and they don't
The
realize they
Viewmaster.
know stereo photography. The old Viewmasters, and, you know, everybody remember these as a kid? I know I do. We had some laying around the house,
Sure, sure. Still in the market today.
and that is stereo photography.
Right.
And most of the pictures were taken either with a camera like that, the f2.8, or 35 millimeter single camera, and moved in between, and then cut down to that particular size.
And then mounted into the Viewmaster
Yeah,
card,
Right.
and,
Reels.
reels,
you know,
and then put in, and there had to be, gosh, dozens and dozens of models of
Oh, yeah.
Viewmasters.
They even had projection. They had projectors that would project simply one view and also double
Okay.
views. Well, all that died along the way because of the need for precision.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about this macro.
Macro. This is a
Stereo
macro.
camera.
This is a
Before we go to a break,
Okay.
let me hold this up to the camera.
That's a macro realist. You'll notice the lens are spaced very close together. And it needs to be because we're taking a bug's eye view, ultra close-ups.
All
So
right.
the interocular needs to be respaced, reconsidered for the distance to the subject to get true stereo without exaggerating the depth in the close-up.
And this allows you to take close-up
Very.
stereo pictures.
Very close-up. You'll notice these rangefinders. These are what you use to gauge
These two little
your
feet here.
distance, right, to gauge the distance
So
to
you
the
would set this
subject.
up against your subject.
Right, and shoot.
And shoot. And get stereo, macro pictures.
Wasn't that
Right.
designed for dentists originally, Norm?
Yes, I believe it was. This was used for orthodontists.
Okay. That's really fascinating stuff, and we've got a lot more to talk about, and not enough time as always, but
Well-
we're going to go to a break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk more about stereo equipment, stereo images, and how you can get involved in stereo if you get a little bit of bug, and I hope you do, so don't go away. Hi, and welcome back to Decent Exposure. And we've got a couple more members of the Chicago Stereo Camera Club with us to talk about a few more things. And don't forget, at the end of the show, have a pencil ready and a piece of paper, because we're going to tell you where an exhibit is going to be in 3D. It's just going to blow your mind, and you're going to want to see it. So have a pencil ready so you can write down the addresses. And now we have John Donaldson and Oscar Sahagun, more members of the Chicago Stereo Camera Club. And we're also going to show at the end of the show a phone number where if they want to join your club, or there may even be people, come to think of it, who have stereo cameras in their closets they may want to sell, or some old cards or stereo cards or whatever.
Or
But
dust
you-
them off and start all over again.
Yeah, you are sure the guys to talk to when it comes to stereo photography. We got a couple more, well, actually a couple cameras, yeah, and a projector here I want to talk about. This is one that Walter brought out, who was on the show before the break, and this is a 4x5. This is an old speed graphic. I'm not sure if it's a speed or a crown graphic that was adapted to stereo, and you can see there's 2 lenses on here now. And what Walter has done is modify this to take close-up stereo pictures of flowers. This camera originally only had 1 lens, now there's 2. And what he's done in the back is adapted it with a roll film back. So he can focus through the ground glass back and then get everything all set. This is the ground glass back that he would focus on. And then put on the roll film back and take pictures on 120 roll film. But then what he did, which was kind of interesting, is take them and mount them into 1-inch square slides. And you guys must do some of this too, and it's just got to be such painstaking, tedious work to get them registered right.
It certainly is. It's the where the precision comes in is in the mounting. The picture taking, I think you've heard before, was not anything really remarkably different from what we've ever done in 2-dimensional photography, but the 3-dimensional depends on those 2 chips of film and their alignment. We do have alignment rigs that we can use, and some people do it just in a viewer alone, and my hat's off to them when they can do it.
Are the slides more popular or the prints? You know, they're the cards, which is...
It's hard to say, because the slides are the thing that our club uses mostly, because you can share them instantaneously when you project them through a projector such as this. Okay, everybody sits down, everybody sees it now. If you had a viewer, it'd have to be passed around and everybody would see it in sequence. But there is a National Stereographic or Stereoscopic Association, and they deal with the cards, the prints, such as what we have under here.
Yeah, we saw a bunch of the prints earlier.
Right. So it kind of divides up according to what your intent is.
Okay, now the projector here is a stereo vivid,
That's great.
and it takes the stereo slide again, and then just slides in. And again, now we've got two lenses.
Correct.
And how does this work, Oscar? How do you focus, or you have to have a certain kind of screen or something? And
It's a lenticular screen.
Okay.
There's lines instead of
instead of the little
pebbles.
pebbles, dots, yeah.
And the dots will break up your image, whereas the lenticular will...
So you have to have a
Wait.
lenticular screen, and then you're actually projecting the two separate images onto one screen.
Correct.
All right.
And if you see them without the aid of glasses, they're blurry. They're offset just a fraction
Right.
of an inch, so they look blurry. When you put on polarized glasses, not the green glasses or the red glasses or the...
They kind of used to get with the comic books.
Right. These are polarized glasses. It brings the images together.
In
And
3D.
that's it, in 3D, yes.
A couple of
See?
years ago, I was down in Disney World, and was it Kodak? I think, yeah, Kodak had a 3D theater that you go into and
In
sit
a
in this
circle.
theater,
Yes.
and it was like the things were hitting. I mean, you actually involuntarily duck out of the ping pong balls or the spears or whatever coming at you. And this is probably as close as you come to that with projected transparencies as you do to the,
Yes.
to the movies.
Yes. Now, the Museum of Science and Industry has their Omni Theater, which is the same wraparound amphitheater.
Okay.
And I think it's only a single film, but
It is.
it certainly gives you a three-dimensional effect.
That's 70 millimeter, and it has a fisheye projection lens on it, so it really spreads it out inside that
It
dome.
makes you feel like you're actually
you're part of it.
inside of
Yeah.
whatever.
And a lot of times, depth depends on motion, too. You have an apparent depth because of motion. There's one thing we should say about this projector. What makes it different from ordinary slide projectors is that you have a focus control. That's over here.
All right.
You have an interocular control. Since you have two images to project on the
There's these knobs
screen,
here.
it moves these lenses in and out. Then there's another control, and that tips it, because if you put a slide into the viewer, and the slide is not level, if it's tilted a little bit, and it only takes a micrometer difference to do this, that has to be corrected. Otherwise, the horizon in one won't line up with the horizon in the other
So
one
it's all got to
projected
be
on the screen.
horizontal and then perfectly registered
And
Yes.
vertical.
this way.
Right.
And
right.
vertical.
So this way, vertically? And
Yes, that's right. There are three controls instead of one focus that we always are used to. Right, right.
So the registration is really important if you're going to get a true image.
Everything, yes.
And we've got over here a couple of odd pieces. Well, I shouldn't say odd. They just look odd. Here's I think somebody said this was an old government map reader or
That's a
something?
military photo map, photogrammetry they call the thing. They take pictures of a plane flying across the ground, and you get two separate images as you fly across. And this, after they come back, allows you to look through the two eyepieces and see depth. People like my son-in-law, who was an imager in the Air Force, can look and interpret that depth as for what it really might be.
Okay.
It's not apparent to the casual observer.
All right. And another one of your club members, I'm sorry I forgot his name, he's in our control room, brought in the two Nikons.
That would be Tom
Tom
Stremlau.
Stremlau.
Tom.
Yes.
And he mounted these two Nikons, which are standard 35 millimeter cameras.
Correct.
And made a stereo setup out of it.
That's right.
And it's just fascinating.
And it's important with these two cameras that you have simultaneous depression of the...
Okay, now,
of the clicker.
in using a setup like that, there's got to be a lot of painstaking work before you even press the shutter. You have to make sure that again, like the projector, the two cameras are lined up properly.
Right.
And you have
And both lenses are
focus
focused
together.
separately, because unlike your stereo cameras where they focus together, these you have to focus separately
That's right.
and make sure everything is in registration again before you take the picture.
Yes. Now, some people, when they get the results from this, use 2 Kodak carousel projectors and project through 2 separate filters, polarizing filters.
Okay.
And when they project them on the screen, it comes out about the same way as if you were using one of these projectors.
So you still have to wear the glasses.
Oh, you must use the glasses, right. That's what encodes the information for left and right eye.
I assume you guys did watch the halftime Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Taped it off to enjoy
Any
it.
comments about it, or compared to? You've been doing 3D for
wonderful.
a long time.
Yes,
You thought it was good?
It was a wonderful experience, right, yes, right. There were some things that we can nitpick on, but
I'm sure.
we're just glad to
Generally,
have
it was,
3D in front
a
of
good
the public.
experience, yes.
Yes.
Good
Okay.
experience,
Okay.
yes.
Right.
So if you did see the Super Bowl, well, I guess what you guys are talking about here takes that beyond, far beyond what we saw at Super Bowl halftime,
Yes.
into much more realistic and a lot more depth
We're
Yes,
trying
into the
to,
imagery.
Yes.
we're trying to create works of art.
Okay.
Okay, we're not just recording the scene, and that's one of the ultimate objectives in our club.
Okay. And we mentioned that there's going to be an exhibit, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about it, John,
Okay,
the Lighthouse exhibit.
Well, this is the year that the 61st Oscar Awards are given.
Right.
This is also the year the 41st Lighthouse Exhibition of Stereo Photography
All
is
right.
going to happen. So we're just 20 years behind on that.
Well, that means you'll last 20 years longer.
Right. In 1949, when this, what we call the realist format, when this kind of positioning of the film chips was established as a format, and when Kodachrome came in simultaneously with that, a member of the Lighthouse board and an amateur photographer said, this is something that we ought to bring to everyone's attention. And so the first Lighthouse exhibition was staged. It was a Lighthouse exhibition in which people such as Harold Lloyd
Okay.
from Hollywood was one of the entrants. Then following that, there were other people like Myrtle Walgreen. We all know Walgreens drugstores. Myrtle Walgreen.
I thought it was Myrtle drugstores. Well, okay.
Right. Myrtle Walgreen was put on a show in that too. It's gone on from that, and it has. We now put on 4 shows, which we'll tell you about later. What you will see in the shows will be ordinary record shots. Yes, there are some of those scenics.
Okay.
There is some black and white.
Up on the screen now, we're showing the dates and addresses for the show. So,
That's right.
Please keep talking.
Okay, fine. You will find things like hyper and hypo stereo, and those are stereo that are taken at different distances than your eyes. For example, as far apart as a giant's eyes, or as narrow together as an ant's eyes. And if you think about it for a minute, what that produces is either a very small miniaturized version or a very large version
And
of
all
what you
stereo
normally see.
photography,
You might also see some macro or micro
Yes.
stereo too.
which is very close up.
Yes.
And all the proceeds go to benefit the Lighthouse.
Chicago Lighthouse for the Blind, yes.
So it's a worthy cause, and I really would like people to go
Yes.
out and see your exhibit and see what stereo photography is all about. And gosh, thank you.
You will see these slides with a narration. You will see them with stereo sound also, and we hope that you'll all come and see it and contribute. We have, as a result of this, in the 40 years past, given over $80,000 to the Lighthouse. Last year alone, it was around $3,400.
So even the
and we received no benefit from
admission
this.
fee is tax deductible there. isn't it?
Yes, it
Certainly.
is.
And it's a very small admission fee. I think
It's only $2.50.
$2.50.
Right.
You can afford that. Please go see it. And on our closing credits, we're going to give you the name and phone number of Norm Henkels if you want to get in touch with the Chicago Stereo Camera Club and get involved in it. It's a lot of fun. And if you've got cameras laying around, use them. Use them. And one other thing I want to mention real quickly, one of our past guests, Judy Horwich, is giving a photographic workshop in Aspen, Colorado. And we're running out of time, but it's a very good workshop. And if you're interested in going to Aspen for a photographic workshop, call Judy at 829-5483. And go out to Aspen, take pictures, and critique each other, and eat food and drink, and we're out of time, and bye for now. It's decent exposure. I'm your host, Ed Hart. We'll see you next week.